Hope you are all able to see the screen. So the thing is, we have learnt about the beta-lactam antibiotics till date, starting from the penicillins in the different category of the penicillins and varieties of the penicillin preparations, their classifications, the side effects, the pharmacology, the toxicology, and many more. So today we will start learning about the cephalosporins, which is another important category of the antibiotic under the beta-lactam only. So in the beta-lactam, there are 4 categories. The number 1 is the penicillins, cephalosporins, cefamycins, etc. So then carbapenems. So these are all the 4 categories, and the cephalosporin is the second category. So why they are called as the cephalosporins? Because they contain the basic structure of a dihydrothiazine ring, and that dihydrothiazine ring is attached to a beta-lactam ring. Whereas in case of penicillins, the beta-lactam ring is attached to a thiazolidine ring. So this is the smallest chemical difference. So this is having the amine group from 7-aminocephalosporinic acid. So that's why it's called as the cephalosporin nucleus. We'll see it. So the dihydrothiazine ring, which is fused to a beta-lactam ring, which is having a secondary amine from it form the 7-aminocephalosporinic acid. So the cephalosporins are chemically, they are related to penicillins only, which also contains the beta-lactam ring. So now you know very well the structure activity relationship of the penicillin. How the changing of the side chain will completely change the varieties of the property of the beta-lactam. So this is very similar to that of the penicillins. In the start of these cephalosporins, coming to the a very little history, in 1945, there's the Giuseppe Borgiu is the person who discovered that the cultures of the Cephalosporium acremonium, they inhibited the growth of wide variety of the gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. So when he was working with the Cephalosporium acremonium culture, the secretions of the culture killed many type of the gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. So then, as it is derived from Cephalosporium, he named those compounds as the cephalosporin. So the history of this starts about in the 1945. Then the Giuseppe Borgiu, he is born on 24th January 1895 and was a Italian pharmacologist and the politician best known for his discovery of the cephalosporin. He was also a politician. Then cephalosporins. So the Borgiu is recognized as the discoverer of the cephalosporin based antibiotics. So he was awarded with the Laurea ad honorarium at University of Oxford in 1971 and was a candidate for the Nobel Prize also. So this is the right side. You are seeing the cephalosporin core ring. That's what the say the structure is depicted here. And by addition of different side chains to position 7 of the beta-lactam ring and R1 and position 3 of the dihydrothiazine ring. So please remember that the cephalosporin basic molecule contains the dihydrothiazine ring and also a beta-lactam ring. So because of this thing, the altering the side chain yielded many semi-synthetic cephalosporin antibiotics. So the modification at the 7, especially, we'll see in the next structure, that's generally associated with the alteration in the spectrum of antibacterial activity and substitutions at position number 3 of the cephalosporin nucleus are associated with changes of the pK properties or the pharmacokinetic property. So here you can see the different type of the penicillin. So the difference between the penicillin is, so here the penicillin do have the beta lactam ring. This is the beta lactam ring. Of course, the cephalosporins also do have the beta lactam ring, whereas the cephalosporins have the dihydrothiazine ring. Here, this is the dihydrothiazine ring, whereas the beta lactam antibiotics, these have a different thiazolidine ring. This is thiazolidine ring. This is the dihydrothiazine ring. So here the carbapenems, there is a difference between the structure of the penicillins, cephalosporins, and carbapenems. So carbapenems also do have the beta lactam ring, and the side chain is little bit different. Whereas the monobactams also do have the B, means the beta lactam ring. That's why all of these penicillin, cephalosporin, carbapenems, and the monobactams, they are named as the beta lactam antibiotics. So you have got the point, because they share the common beta lactam ring, especially the penicillin, cephalosporins, then the carbapenems and monobactams. So they share a common structure activity relationships. That's why they are called as the beta lactam antibiotics. Only change is the cephalosporins do have a dihydrothiazine ring. Yes, coming to the structure activity relationship of the cephalosporin means, that's what I have already told. What happens? This is the 7th position here. So this is a what you call as the dihydrothiazine ring and the beta lactam ring. If it is open, it is beta lactam ring. This is the beta lactam ring. This is the another ring. Here you can see that there are R1, R2, and R3. 3 positions are there for the chemical occupation. And so we will start from the first R1, that is the 7th position substitution. So the substitution in the 7th position yield semi-synthetic, especially incorporation, influences the antibacterial activity, but also the affects the beta lactamase activity. So here varieties of the chemicals are being substituted. So this is very much essential, R3, for the chemical action. So this is stereochemistry of this is very much essential. So another thing, the S here can be exchanged with that of the oxygen moiety or the carbon moiety. That's called as the oxazepam, or if it is C, then carbazepam. So the change will occur. Whereas the R2 here, 6-member, this ring is a 6-member dihydrothiazine ring, as you already know. So whereas in case of R2, this is the 3 position. So the chemical substitution at this ring will increase the stability, and also it affects the antibacterial activity. So this COOH means it is carboxylic acid. So carboxylic acid, and useful during the formation of the prodrug development. So many of the cephalosporins are present in the prodrug, then they are converted to active drug. So the oxygen moiety here, if it is replaced by the carbonyl group, so lone pair electron located on the nitrogen atom here, not fed carbonyl group to form a stabilized response, thus more electrophilic than nucleophilic. So the changing the summary of this particular thing is the changing the different structures which are present on the different positions in the chemical formula of the cephalosporin will change the varieties of the activity. Namely, number 1, the spectrum of activity, the solubility, and also the pharmacokinetic activity, the toxicity, and many more. So these are all the semi-synthetic and synthetic compounds. And coming to the general properties of the cephalosporins is usually it is related to penicillins, very similarly to that of the penicillins, but the cephalosporins are more water soluble and acid soluble, whereas the few of the penicillins are not water soluble. So they are more stable to temperature and the pH changes usually, whereas the penicillins not. And cephalosporins vary in their susceptibility to beta-lactamase. That is, here the beta-lactamase is called as cephalosporinase. The synonym of the beta-lactamase in cephalosporin is called as the cephalosporinase, which may or may not attack the penicillin here. And whereas the first generation penicillins, especially the narrow spectrum penicillins, are always destroyed by the beta-lactamase enzyme. So the cephalosporins are used either as the free base from or oral administration or sodium salt in aqueous solution for parenteral administration. So as usual, as like that of the penicillins, these are also combined with the sodium or the potassium salts. Whereas one important caution, please read it here, some antibiotics such as the aminoglycosides which are going to inactivate the cephalosporins when mixed in vitro. So there is a physical incompatibility between aminoglycosides and cephalosporins. If they are mixed in the same syringe or same vial, then definitely there will be incompatibility because of the change in the physical properties like the pH change and also the other properties change. So the cephalosporins are one of the most popular antibiotics now, even though they are developed in 1945, very recent, of course. The generation up to 5th generation cephalosporins are there, but there is what you call as these are used in the both human and veterinary practice. Very commonly they are used because the potency of this compound is very high, and at the same time these are effective against varieties of the gram positive and negative bacteria. So the varieties of the technologies are there which yield the different chemical compounds, and the side chain structures will yield in the different cephalosporins. Whereas the effect on the non-target organisms is also there, because if it is taken orally, the gastric microflora or the intestinal microflora may be changed, and the repeated occurrence of the disease may happen. And if it is dumped into the water and soil, it may be get contaminated and it enter into the environment. That's the environmental concern of the cephalosporins. And coming to the classification, just like the penicillins are classified in several methods, like the narrow spectrum beta-lactamase, the sensitive and resistance, and the broad spectrum penicillins, and also beta-lactamase resistant penicillins. Like that, in cephalosporins are also generally classified in terms of the chronological sequence development to 4 groups. And now it is 5 groups. So first, second, third, fourth, and fifth generations are there. So the generations of, just like the generations of the human being also, it is developed as the first generation, second, third, fourth, and fifth generation. So the successive generation of the cephalosporins are characterized by being less well observed following the oral observation, because as the develop the oral availability and other things are going to increase, so this made them as per the chemical change, and there increased the stability of the gram negative and beta lactamase, and generally increased activity against gram-negative bacteria. So usually the beta-lactams are effective against gram-positive bacteria, but as the generation advanced, they are also effective against the gram-negative bacteria, but reduced activity against the gram-positive organisms, particularly the staphylococci. Now, the fifth generation cephalosporins are also in the pipeline, and new cephalosporins are being developed, especially the fifth generation and the sixth generation. All these generations are coming. And the classification of these penicillins, like it is the cephalosporins, very simple. The number one is the first generation cephalosporins, like, so please try to remember the examples. I will give some tips how to remember these drugs also. So cephalothene, cefazolin, cephalexin, cephadroxil, then cefepirine and cifradil, and also the cefacloridine and cephalonium. So these are the first generation cephalosporins. So here the drugs need to be remembered in this category because as their wide use is cephalexin, which is very commonly used in veterinary practice, and also the cefadroxil, the another drug, then the cephalothene. So these three names we can remember, or else we can remember as per your convenience any of the drugs, whereas these drugs are very commonly used in veterinary practice. So the second generation cephalosporins are cefuroxime, then cefuroxime acetyl, cefaclor, cefamandole, cefonicid, then ceforonide, cepotiam, then cepametazole and ceprozil. So these are all the second generation cephalosporin. Here, very commonly used drug are cefuroxime and cefuroxime acetyl, and also the cefaclor. So remaining drugs are not so commonly used in the veterinary practice is concerned. Whereas the third generation cephalosporin, here cefotaxime. So the taxime, ceftiofur, then ceftriaxone is all the three in the chronological order. They are very commonly used. Like the ceftriaxone is very commonly used in veterinary practice, and of course in human practice the cefixime, which is always used for the upper respiratory tract infections, especially in the sore throat. So the cefodoxime, proxetil and ceftriaxone, these are all the recent generation, third generation cephalosporins. Whereas the fourth generation cephalosporins are the cefepime, then ceftirome and cefkinome. Rome and Nome, please remember that they are the fourth generation. So here, the fifth generation cephalosporins are ceftaroline, then ceftobiprole. So these are recently generated compounds or the cephalosporin. So please remember, try to remember all these things, and I have got a chart how to remember this particular thing. So please see here, the cephalosporin classification is it is as usual, it is classified into 5 generations. So the first generation, here you can see that FA is first generation. Cefazolin, cephalothene, then cephaloridine, then cefadroxil, then cephalexin. So FA or PHA are very common in the first generation. So the drugs with FA or PHA, PRA, their name as the first generation agent. So the cefaclor is second generation agent. So here it is not so easy to remember. Cefoxetine, then the cefaclor, the chlor is also the second generation. Whereas the third generation drugs, they always end with the IME. Here you can see that the cefaxime, ceftazidime, cefotaxime, ceftriaxone, etc. So ceftriaxone also the third generation, whereas the fourth generation, you can see the PI is a common thing, cefepime and cefepirone. And fifth generation, that's the ciptobiprole and ciptarolin. So this is the way how you can remember, or else you have to mug up. There is no other way for remembering this particular. That is one of the method how you can remember. Here, in the first generation, cifamandole, cefalozin, then cefadroxil, etc. are the first generation. So another way is there. See, this is same way that the cephalorin antibiotics made is very simple trick. So there are 5 groups, same thing. The cefazolin and here Fa or the PHA. It's okay. So the second generation is everything else. That's we can say the Fa, cefaclor, very and the first generation plus chlorinated moiety, that is cefaclor and cefuroxime acetyl. Whereas the third generation IME is very common, like the ceftriaxone, ceftriaxone, then cefadroxime, etc. So the fourth generation PI, cefepime, then cefepime, whereas the fifth generation it is ROL, ceftaroline, then ceftobiprole. So this is the way how one need to remember all these agents. So coming to the mechanism of action of the cephalosporins, they are all the bactericidal agents, means they will stop the growth of the bacteria and they inhibit the bacterial cell wall synthesis in a manner very similar to that of the penicillin. So you know very well about the penicillins, how they are going to act. So very similar to that of the penicillins, these are going to bind with the cephalosporin binding proteins. So A and B proteins are there. They are going to bind with that, and later the formation of the peptidoglycans will be totally inhibited. Like other beta-lactam antibiotics, the cephalosporins are generally considered to be the most effective against the already or actively growing microorganisms. So already existing microorganisms, it is not going to cause anything. But the fast growing microorganisms, they will be targeted by the cephalosporin. So this is the way how the different type of the antibiotics, once again, just for your refresh this thing to knowledge, the cell wall synthesis is inhibited by the beta-lactam antibiotics, the penicillins, cephalosporins, then carbapenems, then monobactams. All these are going to inhibit the formation of the cell wall. Already you know what is the difference between the cell wall of a gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. So to repeat once again, the gram-negative bacteria have got the outer cell membrane, whereas the cell wall which is present, the is also very thin there. Especially it is just like the peptidoglycan chain. And the folate synthesis inhibitors, especially the sulfonamides, already we have learned how the conversion of dihydrofolate to tetrahydrofolic acid is inhibited by the trimethoprim and the sulfonamide. So then the nucleic acid synthesis is inhibited by the fluoroquinolones like norfloxacin, ciprofloxacin, enrofloxacin, and many more. So here the enzyme is inhibited is DNA gyrase, which is very much required for the synthesis of the chromosomes. And also the RNA polymerase enzyme, which is required for the synthesis of the chromosomes, that is rifamycin, is inhibited by that. And another thing, the 50S and 30S subunits of the ribosomes, so they are inhibited by the macrolide antibiotic, the clindamycin, then linezolid, then chloramphenicol 50S bacteriostatics drug, and also the streptomycin aminoglycosides. So whereas the 30S subunit of the is inhibited by the 30S tetracycline and aminoglycosides. So the cell membranes, formation of the cell membrane, this is the cell membrane. So it is inhibited by the polymyxins. Of course, the vancomycin and bacitracin, once again, they are going to inhibit the cell wall synthesis. So this is the overall mechanism of action of the antibiotic. So it makes you to remember them very properly. Please have this picture in your mind so that it becomes very easy for you to remember. Then the cephalosporin antibiotics, especially they are extracted or semi-synthesized from different sources and have beta-lactam ring. They have got the specific beta-lactam ring. Of course, R1, R2 and R3 are present. And these are going to inhibit the cell wall synthesis, especially in the bacteria. The outer coat is being stopped, synthesized is stopped. Then, so the bactericidal effect of the cephalosporin is very similar to that of the penicillin, and the transpeptidases or the penicillin binding proteins PBPs are going to be inhibited by the cephalosporins. Then failure of the cross linkage, especially the transpeptidase, is required for joining the alanine moieties, alpha-alanine and the two alanine moieties, and also the cross-linking between the amino acids. So that will be inhibited by the cephalosporins because they are going to inhibit the transpeptidase enzyme. So what happens? There is a failure to cross the linkage, and the peptidoglycans which are here, which form the cell wall synthesis, is totally inhibited. Hope you can understood. So here already you know the N-muramic acid and the NAG, N-acetyl glycosamine, they are going to form a chain. Then they are going to bind with that of the alanine moieties. The alanine may be L-alanine. Then the peptidoglycan chain is formed. So this is inhibited by the cephalosporin with cephalosporin binding protein. So the cephalosporins also going to the same thing. It is defected in the other way. So cephalosporins are also bound with that of the specific cephalosporin binding proteins PBPs, whereas all these are going to bind wherever the receptors are there, especially penicillin binding proteins. So these proteins, especially they will be bounded with that of the penicillin, and ultimately the cephalosporins, they usually bind with the very high affinity penicillin binding proteins, this especially to this, and causes the irreversible inhibition of the PBP enzymes or the transpeptidases enzymes, leading to failure of cross-linking of the transpeptidase chain, especially the peptide chain. So these interfere with the peptidoglycan synthesis, then inhibition of the cell wall occurs ultimately because the peptidoglycans are just like the poles of a wall, and hence their synthesis is inhibited, and hence the chain, especially the peptidoglycan chain formation, will be totally stopped. Then coming to the antibacterial spectrum of these cephalosporins, they vary with the type of the compound and also the different generations, starting from the generation 1 to generation 5. Of course, this generation 6 may also come. So in general, the first generation cephalosporins have stronger activity against gram-positive bacteria, but weaker activity against the gram-negative bacteria. So this also holds good in case of the penicillins. So in penicillins, the earlier agents were the narrow spectrum penicillins, then they become the broad spectrum. They were effective against both gram-positive and negative bacteria. The second generation agents have got the greater activity against both gram-negative organism and also the lesser activity against gram-positive, but they are active also against the gram-positive bacteria. So this is the way how the cephalosporins have been developed, especially the first, second, third, and fourth generation. Here you can see that the first generation, like this cephalaxin, then cefazolin, are developed in the year 1962, whereas they are active more against the gram-positive bacteria than gram-negative bacteria. So here you can see as the generation type increases, both the activity against the gram-positive bacteria and gram-negative bacteria is increasing. Whereas the second generation is cefuroxime, then cefuroxime F-acetyl, cefaclor in the 1977. About 10 years later, these are developed. Whereas in the 1980s, the cefotaxime, then ceftriaxone, the third generation cephalosporins, they developed. Whereas the cefpirone and cefepime, especially the fourth generation cephalosporins, they also developed within the very short time of the 1983. Whereas the fifth generation cephalosporins like ceftaroline and ceftobiprole, these are developed in the 2005, and these are the fifth generation cephalosporins are effective against the MRSA, means they are also effective against the methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. So here, as the generation increases, the spectrum of the activity, it is going to increase to a greater extent. Of course, the spectrum of activity of the fourth and fifth is almost the same. We will see what they are effective, especially in the individual agents, what we are discussing. So the third generation cephalosporins are most active. All of the cephalosporin, maybe the ceftriaxone, etc. So especially they are effective against gram-negative bacteria. So here you can see the third generation. Here the cefuroxime and cefaclor, especially the second generation, they are equally against both the bacteria, but the potency is less when compared to the other agents. And some third generation agents are also active against the strains of a very resistant bacteria, that is Pseudomonas aeruginosa. So especially this is involved in the wound healing process, delays the wound healing, forms the pus. A lot of pus is formed because of the Pseudomonas aeruginosa. The recently introduced fourth generation cephalosporins, especially in the 1980s, so they have very broad spectrum of activity, which include the gram-positive bacteria, especially cocci and gram-negative bacilli, and they are also effective against the Pseudomonas aeruginosa. And all fourth generation cephalosporins are highly resistant to beta-lactamase enzymes. Hence, they are useful against many bacteria which are resistant to the penicillins, because the beta-lactamase is an enzyme which is very commonly produced by the variety of the gram-positive and negative bacteria. So here you can see that the comparison, the spectrum of activity and also the generations. The classical example is the cefazolin, then cephalaxin are the first generation cephalosporin. So usually they are effective against the gram-positive bacteria. Then as the generation increases, the drugs are also effective against the gram-negative bacteria. Whereas the ceftaroline, a fifth generation, advanced generation, the properties are similar to third generation, but added MRSA or the methicillin resistance Staphylococcus aureus activity. So the second generation, cefaclor, cefotatam, cefoxitin, and cefuroxime acetyl, whereas the third generation is the ceftriaxone, is the drug to remember, and also cefotaxime injection. So the fourth generation cipapine injection, and also the varieties of the bacteria, especially they are effective against the gram-negative bacteria. Then the bacterial resistance is a common phenomenon to any antibiotics, whatever we name in this world. So the mechanisms include the same as described for the penicillins, especially to tell the elaboration of the beta-lactamase. So that is one of the greatest concern now. Cephalosporinase or beta-lactamase is produced by the varieties of the bacteria. It will destroy the cephalosporins. That's one of the mechanism. Then especially the alteration in the target proteins that reduce affinity to cephalosporins, especially the penicillin binding proteins or cephalosporin binding proteins, their structure is totally altered. Hence, the resistance occurs because the decreased permeability to cephalosporins, so that the drug cannot reach their site of action, especially in the gram-positive bacteria or negative bacteria. So these are all the bacterial resistance mechanisms which is depicted here. So the cephalosporins mechanism of resistance is number one, the modification of target site. That is the penicillin binding protein, which is encoded by pENA. So wherever it is going to bind with that of the penicillin binding protein, that site itself will be changed. Whereas this mosaic pen-A gene fragments from the Neisseria, especially gonococci, gonorrhea causing bacteria. So they are usually changed. The Neisseria species are usually found in the throat and naturally less susceptible to cephalosporins because they will change the site of binding, especially they make the bacterial cell impermeable to porons. Porons are the channels through which the antimicrobial agent enters. So they are going to change. And number two is these bacteria are going to release the cephalosporinase enzyme. So another thing is the efflux of antibiotic. Then because even though the antibiotic enters the bacterial cell, it is going to be removed by a special pump which is designed for this purpose only in the bacteria. So please remember that these are all the mechanisms. Number one, the secretion of the enzymes, beta-lactamase, and alteration in the penicillin binding protein and change in the cell permeability to the bacterial antibacterial drug, and the efflux pump will be there to put out the bacteria out. So these are all the different mechanisms how the resistance occurs. And of course, the conjugation of the two cells of the bacterial cells take place, and there will be a exchange mechanism from one bacteria to the another bacteria will take place through the plasmid mediated resistance. Especially the plasmids are the one special structures in the bacteria which acquire resistance and transfer it to the another cell plasmid. So the another bacteria will also become resistance to the drug used. So this is the way how the general mechanisms, especially how these cephalosporins are going to acquire the resistance. Number one, the antibiotic, it cannot bind with the porins or the pores channel. It should come through here. That process will be inhibited by the bacteria. Whereas the restriction access of the antibiotics inside the cell, maybe due to carrier mediated mechanism, etc. So even though it is coming in, the antibiotic will come in, they will be pushed out of the cell. And also the cell membrane becomes tough for the bacteria to enter. Whereas the target site protein or the binding site where the bacteria will be bounded, that will be totally altered. So here you can see that the structure will change like this. The target site will not be there, so that the these cephalosporins cannot bind. Of course, the plasmids will acquire a genetically resistant gene, then they will these inactivating enzymes are also there. Then these are going to, there will be a production of the efflux pump, which puts out the bacteria out. And there are certain antibiotics, these the antibiotic modifying enzymes, they will change the structure and they will make some other new material to be added to the antimicrobial drug and change its activity. So these are all the way how it is going to change the sensitivity pattern of the bacteria. So there is a resistance, of course. This is for the just general knowledge. The global antibiotic resistance market share. So here the oxazolidines antibiotics, of course, the resistance this is the survey conducted in 2017, and highest resistance is occurring to combination therapies. Different drugs are combined here, whereas the tetracyclines, especially in the human use, they have acquired the resistance, whereas the varieties of the drugs like the cephalosporins, coming to the cephalosporins, this is the one. Yes, this is corresponding to this area, especially. So the resistance pattern is less because they are recently developed drugs. And coming to the pharmacokinetics, the pharmacokinetic data, especially on the domestic animals, is very much limited because these are the drugs. They are recently developed drugs. Hence, of course, in case of humans, only the study data is less. Whereas in case of animals, only the data, especially on the small animals, is present. So, especially the many of the recommendations in veterinary practice are based on the human data only. So, coming to the absorption, only a few cephalosporins are acid stable and are given orally, whereas most of the cephalosporins, maybe the advanced agents, they are administered parenterally, either IM, IV, or subcutaneous. The oral absorption cephalosporins are few of the cefepime and many other drugs are the orally absorbed. They are very well absorbed, and the bioavailability is 75 to 90%. So at the time of the IM injection site, it is very rapidly absorbed, and the peak plasma concentration of these drugs will occur within 30 minutes of the dosing. That is very brief pharmacokinetic. Here in this particular flow chart, you can see the difference between the absorption, distribution, and metabolism and excretion pattern of the different generations of cephalosporins. So coming to the first absorption, especially all the oral absorption, maybe this is parenteral absorption is good, especially it is also good, especially in case of second generation. Oral bioavailability is very poor, and these fifth or fourth generation, they are used IV only because orally they are not at all absorbed. Whereas the distribution of the first generation to fifth generation, they distribute relatively as the same. Means the third generation, they are distributed very properly. The ceftriaxone and other drugs, they pass the blood-brain barrier also. And distribution in the meninges, especially the second generation, is increased, especially the cefuroxime, whereas it is very high in case of the third generation cephalosporins. So they become the drug of choice for any central nervous system infections, including the meningitis. Whereas the fourth and fifth generations are also, they are going to pass all the barriers. Whereas the metabolism of these agents is minimal, especially in the kidney and the liver, and they are excreted as such, very similar to that of the penicillins. So excretion, all the drugs usually are from the renal secretions only, renal tubular secretion, especially the ceftriaxone is excreted 40 to 60% in the bile. Ceftriaxone is the drug, and the no renal adjustment for it. So it is highly protein bound. Ceftriaxone 90% once daily dosing is enough. So that's why it is very commonly used in case of the veterinary practice. So the half-life of the first generation, just 1 to 2 hours. Of the almost half-life is very, very short. They are going to act very shortly. As they are very, very potent, this half-life may be sufficient for them to do the antibacterial action. Coming to the distribution pattern, the cephalosporins are widely distributed in the body tissues and fluids, including the varieties of this almost all tissues like the lungs, kidney, bone, and placenta. Why this is being told in the pharmacology is whenever you are treating the diseases like corona, then you should see which antibiotic will be highly distributed in lung. So one of the choices the cephalosporins because their concentration is very high in case of lungs and also kidneys, bone, placenta, the soft tissues, the pleural, pericardial, and joint fluids. All this, suppose if a person is having the joint infection, then also the cephalosporins can be used. And most cephalosporins have very poor penetration into the prostatic fluids and prostatitis and the aqueous and vitreous humors. That's why they become the last drug of choice for the prostatic tissue inflammation and also the eye infections. So the plasma protein binding of cephalosporin is highly variable. Different compounds, different, because the ceftriaxone is having the highest plasma protein binding capacity, whereas the cephalosporins enter milk in low concentration. That's why the milk withdrawal is less, even though these are the top class antibiotics. And the third generation agents like the cefoperazone and the ceftriaxone, they cross the blood-brain barrier in significant amounts and are the drug of choice, especially for the meninges or the brain infection. So these drugs can also pass the blood-milk barrier to some extent. And this is the disadvantage of these agents also. Cephalosporins entered the milk in low concentrations. That's why they cannot be the drug of choice in case of the mastitis. But this is not a general phenomenon for the all, only few of the drugs. Usually the third generation and above, fourth and fifth, they cross the blood-brain barrier very commonly. So this is the pharmacokinetic pattern and the adverse effects. So they are also this as the generation is going to increase, oral or parenteral route is there, and these are widely distributed except the second generation, cefuroxime second generation, and all third generation are going to pass the blood-brain barrier. So the majority do not undergo the metabolism in the liver, just 20% is metabolized, whereas the 80% is excreted as such in the urine. Whereas the renal excretion is due to the tubular secretion and glomerular filtration, it is highest. Whereas the side effects, one of the side effect is the superinfection, because these are going to cause the death of one type of the bacteria, whereas the other type of the bacterial overgrowth is also seen. Whereas some of the side effects are the joint pain and the diarrhea, because the intestinal microflora get disturbed, and sometimes the injection site local edema, and very rarely the fever may also come because of the allergic reactions. And the biotransformation, most cephalosporins do not undergo significant biotransformation and are excreted unchanged. This is the common property of many of the beta-lactam antibiotics, including the penicillins. Penicillins, especially the natural penicillin, 99% are excreted as such without any change. So especially some of the agents like cephalothin, then cefotaxime are actively deacetylated in the liver and some other tissues and as excreted as inactive, especially the cephalothin. They are the mildly active metabolites. And the excretion, cephalosporins and their metabolites are excreted mainly by the kidneys via the tubular secretion, except the ceftriaxone, which is secreted through the bile. And some newer generation agents belonging to the third generation, like the cefoperazone, they are also ceftriaxone, also excreted in bile to significant extent. And plasma half-life, as already we have seen in the flow chart, that it is 30 to 120 minutes. And some of the third generation cephalosporin tend to have longer plasma half-life. So it starts from 1 to 2 hours in the first generation and ranges from 30 to 120 minutes. Generally, cephalosporins tend to have longer plasma half-lives. Generally, cephalosporins maintain effective blood levels for 6 to 8 hours in the body. Like penicillins, probenecid increase the half-life because it is going to stop the secretion of this penicillin from the kidney. So just like the penicillin probenecid combination, this probenecid and cephalosporin combination is also a common phenomenon. And the adverse effect of this drug in the general, usually they are non-toxic, just like penicillins, except the allergy, and they are non-toxic, and allergic reactions are also rare. So please underline this thing, because the penicillins cause a lot of allergic reactions, 1 in 1,000, whereas these are the non-toxic and safe antibiotics with low frequency or allergic reactions. Whereas the hypersensitivity reactions, if occurs, it is similar to that of the penicillins, like rashes, fever, eosinophilia, lymphadenopathy, or full-blown anaphylaxis. So all these things will happen. So another thing to remember is about 10% of the penicillin sensitive individuals show some cross reactions to the cephalosporins. So if a person who is having allergy to penicillins, then he may have the chance of the allergy to the extent of 10%. So this also need to be considered whenever you are prescribing cephalosporins. Then you have to ask, are you having the allergy to penicillin group or not? Or else it may end up with the severe anaphylactic reactions. The other adverse reactions are as usual, the gastrointestinal disturbance, because the nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, and also the super infections, then pain at the IM site, and also sometimes the lethargy like that. So these are all the common side effects, whereas the prolonged treatment with cephalosporins in human beings has been associated with the interstitial nephritis, some of the agents, and hepatitis, thrombocytopenia, and neutropenia, especially the first generation cephalosporins have got the property of nephrotoxicity, or else they are safe. And some cephalosporins, example, cefoperazone and cefomandole, have been implicated in causing the bleeding problems, especially in case of the humans. So blood coagulations will be inhibited by the cefoperazone and cefomandole. Whereas the cephalosporin is withdrawn from the market in 1994 as it was causing a severe nephrotoxicity. So this cephalosporin drug was banned in US in 1994. Then it entered the cattle market as a good drug for mastitis. So it end up. So this is already learned about the kinetic property and the adverse reactions of the cephalosporins. So contraindications and precautions, just like penicillins, cephalosporins are contraindicated in the patients with allergic reactions. Then prolonged administration of cephalosporin should always be avoided in animals, particularly, especially in case of cats, as they may lead to anemia or the superbugs will be formed. And the cephalosporins should be used with caution in the pregnant animals as they cross the placental barrier and reach the fetal tissue. But that doesn't mean that it is going to cause the abortion and cause the fetal anomaly, but it reaches the fetus, and dosage adjustment may be required in patients with renal insufficiency. So less dosage is required to those patients with renal insufficiency. Then the cephalosporin's toxicity, as usual, allergy, some cross reactions, pain at the site of the injection. Then if you are given the IV, then in few persons, the phlebitis may be caused. It precipitates the nephrotoxicity of aminoglycoside and the disulfiram. It's a agent, anti-addicting agent to be given to the alcoholic persons. Especially, it will have the interaction with cefoperazone, then the cefotetan and cefamandole. And the drug interactions, so as in the initial stages only, it is said that these drugs should not be combined with aminoglycosides and also the loop diuretics, just like the furosemide. And these appear to potentiate the nephrotoxic effect of the cephalosporins, and the bacteriostatic agents like the chloramphenicol inhibit the synthesis, this especially bactericidal action of the cephalosporins. Thus, their counter current administration should always be avoided. And the probenecid administered concurrently with cephalosporins, that increases the plasma half-life by competitively inhibiting the renal tubular secretion. So these are all the common drug interactions. So here you can see that the resistance mechanisms. So we will see it later, especially the clinical use of the cephalosporins. They are used for wide variety of the infections, especially in the domestic animals, and the first generation cephalosporins. In particular, they have used in the veterinary practice, especially skin, especially in case of dogs. These are very effective in the skin reactions, skin problems, and also the soft tissues and the UTI, especially, and also the respiratory tract infections. So these are all the approved uses of the cephalosporin in food producing animals. These are all the drugs approved. Like in the first generation, the agents are the cephalothin, then cephalexin, cefazolin, and cefapirin. All these are used in case of the humans. Most of these agents are used. So these drugs can be used in the dairy cattle. So the indication of all these agents is the resistance mastitis, especially. So the route is intramuscular only. So the approval is in the European countries, Italy, Japan, then Canada. So the safety of fur, it's indicated in the beef animal, especially the respiratory tract infection and foot rot infections. Whereas the other agent like the cefpinone, it is fourth generation cephalosporin. It is not used in case of human beings, but it is indicated in the dairy cattle, and it is very effective in case of the mastitis, foot rot, respiratory tract infection. Of course, it is approved in Europe. So these are all the approved countries. Of course, the ceftriaxone and other drugs are also approved in India. The relative resistance of the beta-lactams to beta-lactamase producers by the staphylococcus leads to the frequent use of the infections. Then the staphylococcus is assumed to be involved. And also the second and third generation cephalosporins should be recommended, especially the culture and sensitivity pattern only. But one of the biggest complaint or the constraint is the high cost of the cephalosporins has limited their use, frequent use in case of the veterinary practice and also the large animal practice, because the dose required is very high and cost becomes very high. So coming to the bacterial resistance, the antibacterial resistance, usually the probenecid inhibits both organic anion transporters OAT in the basolateral membrane of the cells in the proximal tubule. So what happens here is the probenecid and aspirin, they are going to inhibit the entry of the penicillin with OAT, organic anion transporters. So this is going to cause especially the blood and in the urine. So the probenecid is going to inhibit the reabsorption of the urates, especially the urate transporters or URAT in the apical membrane of the proximal convoluted tubule, which decreases uric acid reabsorption, resulting in the increased urinary excretion of these particular drugs are concerned. So this is the how this probenecid is going to inhibit the secretion of the penicillins or the cephalosporins. So tomorrow we'll start the first generation cephalosporins, etc., and the different agents are concerned. Thank you.